grab a drink, sit back, and explore the paranormal with us. Welcome to the Necromancer Live Show. This stream will begin in time. Thank you for your patience. Grab a drink, sit back, and explore the paranormal with us. Welcome to the Necromancer Live Show. This stream will begin in time. Thank you for your patience. Grab a drink, sit back, and explore the paranormal with us. Welcome to the Necromancer Live Show. This stream will begin in time. Thank you for your patience. Grab a drink, sit back, and explore the paranormal with us. Welcome to the Necromancer Live Show. This stream will begin in time. Thank you for your patience. Grab a drink, sit back, and explore the paranormal with us. Welcome to the Necromancer Live Show. This stream will begin in time. Thank you for your patience. Grab a drink, sit back, and explore the paranormal with us. Welcome.
As far back as I can remember, I dreamt of a normal life. A life filled with normal things. A life where monsters don't live in closets or under the bed. A life where ghosts aren't real. I just wanted to be normal. But that didn't happen. It wasn't meant to be. Since my early 20s, I have experienced profound paranormal events that would change my life. Extreme poltergeist activity, living amongst those that have departed this earth in ways unimaginable. It has affected my loved ones and children and feel things not of this world. I asked myself if this was a gift or a curse. With the help of my mother and close friends, I emerged a paranormal investigator. Since 2013, I have been on a relentless journey to learn about the paranormal. I invite you to follow me into the unknown. Welcome to the Necromancer Live Show.
Hello and welcome to the Necromancer Live Show. I'm your host, Justin Brown, and we have another super cool guest tonight. Thank you for joining. We have Missy in the chat. We have Rob Hernandez with us tonight. What's up, Rob?
What's going on? Hello, everyone.
So, what's going on is you told me that we have a lot to talk about.
Oh, we sure do.
There is a lot of questions I have. This is our first opportunity to actually interact with each other, like on a two-way conversation, and I'm pretty excited. I know that you're a nerd, and I like that.
To say the least.
I know that we'll get nerdy. So if you like nerdiness, chat, you're in for a journey tonight. But before we get into that, I need to know why in the hell you do this stuff. Like, did you have experiences? Are you just super interested in the subject matter? Give us your origin story.
So my origin story started, God, years and years ago. So I was 5, was out over my mom's girlfriend's house and visiting. So I had to use the restroom and went to the restroom, looked up in the mirror, getting ready to wash my hands, and saw a figure in the mirror. So I always get these, like, anytime I'd go to a location, I'd get these weird feelings if something was was off. So I left the door open. You know, I'm a 5-year-old kid. Who cares? So I do my business. I see this figure. I run out. Ended up being the Hat Man. So I sit down, and my mom and her girlfriend were like, "What's going on? Are you okay?" And it's like, "Yeah, I'm okay." And then they were like, "Why did you run down the hall?" And I was like, "Nothing, no reason." And then they were like, "No, what's going on?" So I told them what I saw. Then they were like, "Okay, just watch TV," kind of blew me off. And then I heard them talking like, "Oh my God, he saw what I was just telling you about and what we were talking about earlier." And so she asked me, "So what did you see?" And I said, "Well, I saw a man. He was in a long coat. He had a hat on, like a tall hat." And then she was like, "Okay, well, don't worry. It's nothing to be afraid of, whatever." And exactly. So it was weird because, throughout my childhood, we'd go to places and I would just get what felt like extreme anxiety. So it was just really weird. It just made me feel very uncomfortable. And I'm like, nope, I'm not going in there. And even if I had to go to the restroom, I would literally like run in and literally run out. So my parents, as a kid, I started going to, see a therapist, whatever. They thought I was afraid of the dark. And the therapist was like, "Nope, it's not afraid of the dark." And they were telling I remember sitting down with my parents and the therapist and hearing them talk. And then they were like, "He keeps on seeing things, maybe he needs to get some more help, whatever, this and that."
Oh, God.
And yeah. So then it was like I was 12 and I was in a wedding. So I went to this location, didn't know it was haunted, and went upstairs, was exploring. It was an old Spanish adobe. So I was looking through the windows and I saw this lady. She was in a black dress. She was walking like in the living room, turned and started walking towards me. I took off. I just ran. But I got that feeling. I ran downstairs and people were like, "What's going on?" And I'm just like, "Nothing." Then I was talking to to one of the docents, I guess, was there kind of just standing there. I said, "Hey, do you guys see a lady in a black dress? Is there a lady in a black dress upstairs in the kitchen?" She was like, "No, the house is empty. It's locked up." And then she was like, "Did you see something?" And I told her, and she said, "Oh, okay." She goes, "Huh, that's weird." So, as I got older, I went out to the same location and got a tour. And then they were talking about this lady in a black dress that people see all the time. And then I started hearing ghost stories about this location. I was like, Then there's a pretty well-known historian. His name's Richard Sennett, and he writes a lot of ghost books and things like that. So I talked to Richard and I was telling him, "Hey, you know what? Mrs. Olivas, is there pictures of her somewhere?" And he said, "Yeah, let me go walk you around." And so I started doing more and more research on that location. And I was like, "That's who I saw." And I told him the story. It's like, "You're not the first one that saw him." So yeah, going back to that location, I've had so many experiences at that location. I actually had a little boy attach himself to me and come home with me. This was about 10 years ago. And then the last house I was living at. So yeah, and I was pretty heavy into it. I said, "You know what? We're going to do an investigation. I'm going to see if I can make contact with him." And ended up, yeah, I did. And, so it was funny, like a couple of days after the investigation, my dog would go into the bathroom. She would just start wagging her tail, and she went into the bathroom. I was like, and she was in there for like 15 minutes. I was like, "What the hell is she doing?" So I walked in there. She's just laying on the carpet, and she never did that. So, I think it was the next day. Because I was working from home, and so my office was right across from that bathroom. I went to the kitchen to get something to drink. On the way back, I saw a little boy standing there in the doorway, and I was like, "Holy shit!" And I said, I called up a friend of mine who we were at an investigation at that same Adobe, and I remember she said that she got a picture of a little boy, and so I messaged her and I said, "Hey, the picture of the little boy, was he wearing like a little jacket with like shorts, high socks?" And she just said, "Let me send you a picture." After I told her that, "Let me send you a picture." So she sent me the picture, and I was like, "Holy shit, that's who I saw."
Wow.
So that evening, it was weird. I went to the restroom and came out and jumped on my computer, and I was doing a little bit of research, and my girlfriend walked in and she said, "Why'd you lock the door?" And I said, "I didn't lock the door." I said, "When I go to the restroom, I always leave the door open." I said, "Why would I even shut it or therefore even lock it?" And she said, "Well, it's locked." So she was like, so she had to go get the key, open up the bathroom door, and she came in my office and said, "Very funny." And I said, "What?" And she said, "What you did in the bathroom." And I said, "What did I do?" And she said, "Come here and look." So there was toilet paper draped all over like the shower, all over the bathroom, the toilet, all over the sink. And then I was like, "I didn't do that." I said, and she said, "Bullshit." And I said, "No, I swear to God." I said, "I went to the restroom, flushed the toilet, and walked out." I said, "I didn't even wash my hands because I was in the middle of doing something. I didn't care." Anyway, so she was like, "All right, we got to get that little boy out of here." So we basically just kind of told him, "Look, you can't stay here. We're going to take you back home." And we kind of explained to him, "Look, this is what we're going to do." And then we went back to that location. We walked around, and then we just said, "Okay, you have to stay here now," and whatever. And after that, we didn't have any more experiences with them.
Interesting. So yeah, when I asked for an origin story, that's I feel like there's a lot more, but that definitely got me on the right track. Before we continue, how's kind of go into your relationship with your grandmother?
with my grandmother. So I got to know my great grandparents on both sides of the family, both my great grandmother, great grandfather on both sides of the family. And then I was close with my mom's mom and my dad's mom. So my mom's mom and I would always talk about our background.
Mhm.
She would just tell me more about, my Indian heritage. She grew up on a ranch here local. So she would just tell me a lot of different stories. So that was really cool. As I got older, to find out, I went after doing some research and doing a DNA background. I found out that I was half French and half Indian.
Interesting.
So, yeah, and it was weird because we just found when I found that out, my mom and my aunt were just talking about that, and I was over visiting with them, and they were like, "Wait, you just got your genealogy test back?" And I said, "Yeah, here's the results," and I was showing it to them, and they were like, "Wow, that's kind of interesting because we just, found out that, my mom's mom was half French and half Indian." So yeah, it was kind of interesting.
Yeah, as you were talking about your past, grandma definitely popped up in my head. There's definitely some connection there with that part of your ancestry, and I would not be surprised if she had her own stories to tell.
There were a lot. We know, I just found this out too. That yeah, she was into doing candle magic. So I never really talked much about that with anybody. My mom didn't even get into it, but I found that out.
Oh, I remember looking at this. That's interesting. That's really cool. Yeah, man. I probably won't go into this on air, but I'm definitely want to talk to you more about this because I want to lead you further down the rabbit hole. But
no, I can go deep down the rabbit hole. I got some. When I told the story, and the reason why I was telling that story about when I was 12, some other weird things started happening at that time, and that's why I said it. At that same time period, I went over to, this family just moved into this house, and I walk in, and his mom just said, "Hey, how are you doing?" She introduced herself to me, and she said, "Can you sit down here with me for a minute?" And I thought this was a little odd, and I said, "Okay, sure." And so she just started asking me a ton of questions, just a bunch of questions. And she was asking me about my background. And then I didn't know this at that time. We talked about it a few years later. But yeah, she basically did a reading on me. And she told me that, she talked about my heritage. She talked about my past life. And then, yeah, so basically she said, in my past life, I was a medicine man. I know this is weird why I'm saying this. I don't know. But recently I was somewhere else, and same thing. I ran into somebody. We started talking. She grabbed my hands and she was like, "Holy crap." She pulled her hands away from me and she said, "We need to sit down and talk." And then so she was saying things that nobody else even knows about my childhood, about my past. she was saying things that nobody else knows. And I was just blown away. And it was along those same lines.
And, you know, I'm sure if you've watched at least a small fraction of my shows, you probably know that, you know, I talk about my Native American heritage. I talk about, you know, the things we carry with us through our genes handed down to us from our ancestors. And I'm huge in there's certain people that just emanate their ancestry, and you're one of them, man. I mean, especially natives, their DNA just reeks of pride and legacy, and it is very vital to their, you know, ultimate, you know, ancestral destiny that they hand down their beliefs, their, you know, everything about them, you know, all the way down to, you know, how they laughed, you know, how they did things, you know. So it's definitely cool that, you know, those people are open, you know, people like you and I are open to, you know, explaining that. I know it's hard because, you know, you say in a past life, oh, I was a medicine man. That's not crazy to me, because my beliefs about my ancestry are even, they're so much nuttier. Okay. Way nuttier. So if you feel free, if you think that there's, you know, something worth saying, just say it, because, you know, if there's any takeaway from the show is like little seeds that are planted that, you know, can grow even more. Like, I like to fertilize those seeds and lead people down paths that maybe they didn't have so much incentive to do before. And it opens up so many doors. But maybe we'll save that for another show. I don't want to waste the whole 2 hours on it, because I kind of want to find out how this led you into the paranormal research that you're doing now. Missy, is there anything in chat that you want to read before we go into this?
No, I did want to say I was the same as you. I felt it permeating from him, but so much more when he raised his hands.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. The look of his hands, you can tell.
She's reading your palms, dude.
You know, it's just weird. Like, because even when I went to school, like, I was so fascinated by Native Americans. And my friend's mom was Native American. I didn't know she was Navajo when I first met her. You know, it was just, but ever since I was growing, I mean, I was a little kid, didn't even, you know, I was just so fascinated with everything about the Native American heritage. Going to museums, I was just like ecstatic. I mean, most kids are like, oh my God, we're going to another museum. How boring. And I never got enough. I was always just examining everything. Pottery, I mean, just everything. Like, yeah, it was. And then once I found out, it was weird, because when I went to school, I was in college. One of my professors, you know, I was taking some art classes, and one of my professor just looked at me and he said, "Sit down." And he said, so we were doing sketching at that time, and he was doing a portrait of me. And he was like, "You just have the most amazing features." And I was going to school in Arizona. So, and he was like, "Rob, you're not Hispanic." He said, you're Native American. And I was like, yeah, whatever, you know, just like, because of my surname. So I'm just like, yeah, whatever. And I just think at that time I was kind of like in denial. I think we all go through those phases.
Well, just saying Hispanics are Native American.
Oh no, I know. And the way that I have my Spanish surname, I mean, is, you know, my ancestors were here in California before, when it was still, you know, Mexican territory. It was still the territory of Mexico. And, you know, so they were naturalized that way. And then here's the other part, is the French part. My ancestors were in the French territory when it was still owned by the French. and then we sold it to the US. So it's kind of weird how my ancestors were in both of those territories before the US took over.
Right. All right, man.
But yeah, I'm very open. I mean,
Good.
That's how I am. If somebody asks me questions, I don't hold back. I mean, I have nothing to hide. I'm an open book. People that know me, they're like, Rob, you're just too open. And I'm like, well, that's me. What you see is what you get. I have nothing to hide.
At least you know what's going on for real, and you can decide whether you like it or not.
No, exactly. Absolutely.
Okay, Rob. So here we are now. How did you get? What was the point where you thought, hey, let's just dive right into this whole paranormal field thing? Like, when did that start? What kind of sparked it? I know you've had the childhood and the origin story to get it primed, but what was the turning point?
I was working for the military. I was a contractor, and I met up with a group of people. And one of them, we were talking, and she couldn't find out she was a psychic. And so she was like, hey, can we go to lunch and talk? And so we did. And she said, how do you feel about ghosts? And then I was telling my stories. And then she said, would you want to go to a couple of investigations with us? We want to help out some families, this and that. And at that time I was 18, 19? Yeah. So I was already kind of doing investigating on my own. So they kind of took me under their wing, and there were some people from UCLA, part of the parapsychology labs out there. So we kind of just, sure, I'll go. And yeah, that's how it all started.
Yeah, once you get the bite and get the bug, it's like, oh, I was looking at the rabbit hole, I was gazing at it, it was over there, I kept close, and then someone just kind of grabbed your hand and you jumped in, and it's like a point of no return, right?
Right.
To me, it helps with the acceptance, and listening to you before we went live, it seems like we share the same struggle of, what is real, what's not. What is this stuff legit, or am I maybe not crazy, but just very imaginative and creative with my own spiritual beliefs? Well, once I started researching and I found out that, hey, the scientists are saying this is a simulation. And once you start looking at, scientists saying, well, there's code and all the things that they use to describe the universe, then you start thinking like, it's starting to make sense, because you watch the movie, the whole analog glitch in the Matrix, that would definitely explain what we call paranormal. A lot of it. Okay? And it would leave an open space for everyone who believes in certain religions and things to be in play. It wouldn't have to be one camp was right and the rest are wrong. How about all of it is in play? And we, through our belief and manifestation, bring all this in play, and that makes the world so much more interesting, because the possibilities are basically infinite, and your mind is the contributing factor to these things, like the movie Matrix suggests, happening in the ways that they do, because it's almost like you're bending your reality around your intent, your belief. Are you following me with this?
Dude, it's like I was having the same conversation over the last month. The same exact conversation.
But it's creepy now, because all the people that we rely on to say what's real, what's not, are saying this. I mean, we got UFOs in the media. Hey, there's unknown craft with aliens in it. What's up? And, you know, this is the Matrix. What's up? We're living in crazy times, dude.
Yeah. It was maybe 2 months ago. I saw something out of the corner of my eye. It was at the right time, right place. I just saw something like flash, and I was like, what the hell was that? And I look up, and this thing was moving. I pulled out my phone, just snapped a picture. I was able to catch her. I went back trying to get my video to turn on. As soon as I turned it on, it was moving so fast I couldn't even keep up, and then it was gone.
At night?
No, during the day.
During the day.
The trajectory was at probably a good 45-degree angle going up. People are like, dude, it's a rocket. No. The Pacific Missile Range literally is right over this mountain range right behind me. That's Malibu out that way. And Point Magoo's out that way. And that's Pacific Missile Range. Where it was going was inland. They don't fire when they launch a rocket, even from Vandenberg Air Force Base, which is down the coast a little ways. They shoot it over the islands, the Channel Islands, because they do not want any debris. If something happens, they don't want that coming down over, population. So they launch the rockets. It's like in Florida. They launch the rockets over the ocean just in case something happens. This was going inland. And for this, I've seen the Blackbird flying at Mach 3. It launched from, when it did a flight from California to Washington, I believe, or it was New York. I saw it flying at Mach 3, and this thing was moving faster than that.
That's what they're calling was it hypersonic speed? Anything that exceeds like Mach 4 or whatever.
Right.
That's crazy. Imagine that. Well, they're saying that there's no G-force on these UAPs because of their maneuverability and their ability to hover when high winds and all that.
Right.
That's just so fast.
Yeah, and when I showed a couple of people that that are huge into UFOs, they were like, "Dude, that's like, excuse the pun, but dude, that's like a money shot. That's like once in a lifetime." I mean, and I've captured apparitions on camera, several times, and I was lucky, and I've been lucky to capture that. I think I posted that on Facebook a while back when it happened.
I must have missed that. Yeah, that's crazy, man. I've seen things that I have no explanation. I remember vividly seeing this on social media, but it was years before I seen it on social media. It looks like a falling star, but it's not. It like manifests out of thin air, and it goes straight down, hovers, and then goes straight back up.
Yeah, that's seeing what can do that. There's nothing that we have that can do that.
I've seen pennies levitate. I don't know how that happens either, man. It's just, there's so much unknown out there. It's just mind-boggling. If you would ever get the opportunity to know what it is, it's got to be something mind-blowing. If it's not aliens, if it's not ghosts, it's got to be something equally fascinating and mind-blowing.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've seen a lamp literally fly across the room. That was like my second investigation I've ever done. And when they talk about, a young girl, like teenage, causes poltergeist activity. I've seen it happen.
Mm.
And she was angry that her grandpa passed when she was out at summer camp. He passed when she was gone. She came back. She was upset, and the activity would only happen when she was there in the house.
So, PK agent, hopefully I'll get done with this model I'm trying to develop that involves that type of phenomena. And just today I messaged Derek while he was at the hospital with Missy's dad. And this is all I'm going to say for now. There's some NASA tech that only costs a couple $100 a build that may help me find supporting evidence of this theory. And if I do, it's going to be mind-blowing, and I'm going to release it free for everyone to do to the public. And if it's what I think it is, it will definitely help understand a lot that science don't understand about the paranormal. Because I just to give you a hint, that gal that they studied a long time ago back in Germany, I forget her name, but she had telekinesis and she was moving things, and they had video and documentation of it. And they found that her sweat had high levels of histamine, which allowed the electrostatic effect to occur much more easily. And I found that fascinating, kind of led me into this idea. But the whole parapsychology field when it comes to poltergeist and PK manifestations is a huge part of why I think paranormal phenomena is what it is. I feel like we're all agents in the whole mechanism. It's not just like it's there whether you're there or not. We're part of the recipe somehow.
Dude, it's like I'm getting goosebumps because I think you're the only other person that I've heard talk a lot about PK.
It's old school shit, man. It used to be a thing.
I know that, and Lloyd Auerbach and I had a long conversation about it.
He's great.
Lloyd and I would talk about it, and we would have discussions. He said, "Rob, how do you know it's not psychokinesis that's doing that?" And I said, "Lloyd, I absolutely 100 agree with you that that's what a lot of the phenomena is." But it's we have to try to prove that. And absolutely. I think that's what's causing a lot of phenomena. And what you just said about the electromagnetic or
electrostatic,
the electrostatic, that's just something else. Like I'm just like, oh my God.
All right. Well, let me rehash on this idea because I think it's important, to revisit it as much as possible. So, battery drain, the tingling sensations, everything is leading to electron transfer. So, if you look at how batteries work, they produce ions, through electron transfer. Especially lithium ions. That's what most of us are using because they,
right.
They're good batteries. So that's even a better energy source. People feeling drained, people feeling the tinglies. I feel like that's all electrostatic phenomena. So if you look on how it's possible for something to move, you have to follow the science breadcrumbs. So if a charge changes, like all static electricity is it's being stripped of their electrons, so nature has to balance. It has to get electrons from something else, hence the static arc that you see. Lightning, it's constantly doing that in the atmosphere. So if it's electrostatic, then if the electrons get stripped really hard on one side, it will be like a magnetic effect. It attracts, to whatever it needs to borrow electrons from. And so that's where this tech I'm looking into, if I can capture electrostatic forces at play when these things happen, we're on to something here.
And it's like, when you walk through what it feels like spider webs.
Mm-hmm. That's it.
that's exactly what we're walking through. I always carry a static detector. Always. You can buy them cheaper than any, EMF detector that you can buy, right?
Mm-hmm.
I would carry an EMF detector. I would carry a static detector, one in each hand. And anytime you walk through that, what happens? That static detector goes crazy. You get no hits on the EMF detector, but that static detector, it goes nuts.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm able to get the stuff I need, it's going to be fun. I mean, at least disproving that, or finding out that it is not that, I can cross that off the list, because one of the frustrating things is having all these ideas and no way to kind of move forward with them. And I think that's what separates most people from the serious researchers, is they just, pedal in neutral their whole career, not really testing ideas or trying to learn how to do it. And that's what's exciting to me. Like, I don't even need to find out if it's true. And that's why I thought it was interesting when I was watching your podcast. You allude to, not dying for your beliefs because you could be wrong. I mean, I feel like that's, a really cool thing to say. I've been saying it for years. Like, I could be wrong. You need to find out if you're wrong, because then you could be right by knowing that you're wrong.
But yeah, I mean, but isn't that what we all need to try to do, right? I mean, that's why we're doing what we do.
You investigate. If you look it up in the Oxford Dictionary, that's what it is.
Right. We can't just, oh yeah, well, this is, you have a theory and you just go with it. You have to try to disprove that theory.
Absolutely. That's what's fun. That's the funnest thing to do.
That's the fun part. Exactly. And, there's been, like I said, I mean, when, I was with a group of people, we all saw this apparition. Dude, I spent the next hour trying to debunk what we just saw. And I'm like, all right, I'm walking through, here, I'm going to walk this way. I'm going to do this. I'm going to walk this way, try to capture it from here, tried every single angle, tried to do everything. We're like, dude, I can't explain it. Everything we're doing is not working.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about my camera setups and all the crazy stuff I do. You end up looking like the Borg off of Star Trek at the end of it. But it takes so much guesswork out of it. If you get something that you can't explain on your audio, well, if you were shooting your face, your friend's face, and everybody's there's face, you got wide angles, you got recorders outside, you got recorders inside, you're going to find out if that noise was supposed to be there or not, one way or another.
Yep.
And I mean, there's constantly ways to perfect this. And here soon, I'm going to release a whole vlog and whole educational thing on 32-bit float recorders. Have you had a chance to use them at all?
Oh, what's that?
32-bit float. It's a bit rate.
Yep.
I mean, some dolls have it, some recorders have it, some microphones have it, some, it's, I mean, getting that whisper and being able to, amplify it, 60 decibels without introducing preamp noise is like, come on, that's what we need.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I'm not going to, talk about certain recorders that people use that are recording, and I wouldn't even say 4-bit. I wouldn't even say they're not even recording in 4-bit. I mean, it's kind of funny. And I mean, all that they're doing is introducing, the background, the noise from the recorder. Mm-hmm. And you can't say it's an EVP. I mean, if you analyze it and you put it through some audio spectrum software to analyze that, you'll see there's nothing paranormal about it.
It
you
almost,
want me to just say it?
Yeah, the DR60, that's what you're talking about.
I'm talking about the DR60. See, I said 4-bit and you started laughing.
Well, I tell you what, it's the holy grail of recorders for, you know, the mainstream paranormal pulp culture. And yes, they're going to love it because every time you turn the thing on, you stop talking, it's got this, you know, response when you're not talking. And you have, a lot of people have the freedom to interpret whatever they want that to be. It doesn't even have to be audible. They can just say, this is what it's saying. And it's definitely the, you know, a ghost, a demon, whatever, it's grandma. They can say whatever. And it is absolutely horrible and a travesty to the paranormal, the pursuit of any truth when it comes to voice phenomena. Because me and you both know that the most common manifestation is either acoustic energy, you know, the air vibrating that our ears are hearing, like disembodied voices, you know, footsteps, raps on walls, you name it. It is very easy for whatever's doing to do that. But, you know, when you're getting manipulation of devices, that's a lot harder to prove and know it's anomalous. And I want to get into that with you because I want to share this idea with you so maybe you can do something with it since you are, you know, into the ITC field. Let's just do it right now. Okay, let's just do it right now and get it over with. So, like 3 years ago, I kept on, you know, scrutinizing my own ITC work. I was like, look, there's these responses coming through that sound insane, that sound, you know, it's so promising, but you just don't know if it's, you know, coincidence or this well-timed thing, and it's just your human brain doing what it does best. So the idea is, okay, there has to be an internal manipulation if it's not actually what is being broadcast or what's possible on its, you know, on the app, if it's like a phonetic generator or whatever. So what kind of manipulation could it be? Well, you test two things at the same time. If it's an internal manipulation, then all you have to do is get two apps, spirit boxes, what have you, does not matter. So I took two and I synced them to where they're doing the exact same thing. So I hooked them up to a wireless transmitter, a vocal mic transmitter. So I recorded what was coming through both devices before the transmitter and then after the transmitter. So if one of them transmitted something wirelessly different from the other, then that's anomalous. That's over-the-air manipulation. The internal manipulation is you just take two spirit boxes, you sync them up, and you run them into a multi-track recorder. So if one is doing what it's supposed to do and the other one doesn't at a certain spontaneous point of time or well-timed with what you're asking, then you have something that is, by definition, anomalous. It should have been both the same. Are you following me with this? So it's this monstrosity of a setup, and it sucks to analyze and it sucks to set it up. But I don't see anybody doing it because, for one, it does suck. It's a hard work, but I'm surprised that no one's come up with this idea. Well, at least maybe if they have, they haven't really tried to make it public. If you're into this idea, I can send you the video tutorial that I did if I can dig it up. If not, I can give you a detailed instructions how to do this, but you have to have two identical devices. At least two.
Dude, I just can't believe, like, this conversation was meant to happen. Dude, I don't know what the heck is going on because everything that you have brought up and talked about, that's why I kind of like shake my head or I just like look up to smile, like chuckle, like I wanted to chuckle because, dude, you're like reading my mind or you're like have been part of conversations that I've just had with other people. And if you reach out to these other people, they're like, dude, I just had that conversation with Rob.
We're on the same wavelength.
Because we're like so in sync and on the same wavelength. Because I was talking about a more involved way that would really suck to figure out what's happening, like in using like a spirit box. I was going to have like, let's say 12 spirit boxes and 12 recorders and syncing
that
them
would
all
really
up.
really suck.
That's what I'm saying. But, I'm going to try to see, okay, if it's hitting 12 stations, okay, each box should have the same recording.
Yep.
If it's not anomalous, right? I mean,
Right.
if it's doing what it should be doing, all 12 of them are going to be in sync and all of them will have the same recording.
Yep.
And I was only saying 12 because if it's hitting 12 stations, then you want one recorder, one spirit box for each of those stations. And let's see if we can get it done. So, but yeah, that would suck. And I was just talking to somebody about that.
Yeah.
And but the thing is, nobody wants to do it because it's too time consuming. That's one. And I think the biggest part of it, they don't want to be disappointed.
Yeah. Those are two, probably the biggest things I can think of. I mean, most of the people who are doing it, let's just be honest, they're trying to do it for entertainment, and whether they know it or not. Everybody probably has a day job and they hate it, and this is their release and their cathartic, meditative thing that they do to like life. Why would you make something that you like suck? It doesn't make sense from that perspective. But if you have this real obsession of finding out, is it anomalous, then you do it. And then you try to encourage others to do it because you want people to replicate the results.
Yeah. And I mean, I've been there where that was my entertainment. And honestly, I've been on both ends of the spectrum. Okay, hey Rob, I want you to come to this location. We're going to be there at that location for 5 days. Okay.
It's a long time.
Yeah. Or, hey, we're going to OSR. We're going to be there for 3 days straight. Okay, cool. And, during that 3 days, I mean, how many people get to be in one location, just might leave to take a nap or to grab some and have food delivered or go pick it up and come back to the location. It was fun. But I think that's what led me onto the path where I'm at right now. Because I started seeing, I think it woke me up to really get down and need to buckle down and do research.
So you'll reach a point. Most people will reach a point whether their beliefs are locked in and they find their community. I mean, this online thing is like an echo chamber, dude. It's crazy. They'll lock into their belief and they'll lock into their community and they'll just echo the same crap, and they're all happy in their little, cult.
And that's what it is. I mean, and this is why I say, people, because, when I talk about it, and because I'm passionate about what I do. And yes, I'm very hard. I mean, I'm hard on people, but I want to help people grow. I want people to see, look, you know what, this is what we need to do to move forward and to move yourself to a next level. If that's what you want to do, this is what you got to do. And
yeah, the reason I do it, and I'm going to go out on a limb here and say the reason you do it is we want to be accepted by those who stand against us, and we don't want to give them more ammunition to stand against us. There's skeptics out there that will just, no matter what you do, they're on the other end of the spectrum. They're not going to budge. But the Neil deGrasse Tysons, the people out there that are already just, they have to leave space of openness there because they know there's an opportunity to know more. And if you just strip away and shed away all this bullshit that they use against us, then while you're at the end of the day, there's nothing that they can use against you. They're like, okay, they're doing everything I told them they should do. Now I don't have shit to say. Now I should shut up now and just let them do it, and then be like, okay, that's interesting. Maybe you should tweak this. Maybe you should keep doing that. So we all come together then And then we can just pursue the weirdness together, because it's out there, folks. Like, it's crazy to me that people can walk through their life and not experience anything paranormal. Like, I envy them. I envy those people, because let's just face it, you feel like the strangest, weirdest, frightened person to live in the world where you experience crazy stuff that seems like it is what it is. Like, there's something out there that resembles ghosts, demons, aliens, whatever, and everybody else is kind of like, nope, don't see it, don't feel it. It's very, very frustrating to be that person.
And it is frustrating. I mean, and that's, I think, what get people not believing, these people are just crazy, because they never experience it. And I get it. I understand that.
I wouldn't either. I wouldn't believe any of this stuff if I didn't experience it.
Right.
I wouldn't believe it at all. And in ignorance is bliss. Like, I would feel great calling everybody else lunatics and nut jobs. But, I used to say that about my mother for years. I'm like, my mom is crazy. It is what it is. And she can just be happy with her crazy self over here, and I'm over here. But it just came to the point where 100% fact that she's not crazy. And I say this all the time. So all the stuff that she has said, you have to accept by default, because this crazy thing is true. So everything else must be true too. Like, all the crazy stuff. And
I mean, there was a time when I didn't say, anything about the paranormal. I mean, even though I was really into it, just because I didn't want people to think I was crazy, because I had so many stories, and people were like, yeah, bullshit, this guy's crazy. Mm-hmm. So I hid it.
So there are Neos out there that can see the code, that can bend space and time, that can do these things. And those that don't realize that they're Neo could maybe eventually catch up, because I think that some people are wired to detect it better. And some people, like, through coincidence or stars aligning, are just set up to realize that the strangeness happening is real. It's there. It's a real thing. And what makes it crazy is, if we do live in a simulation matrix type scenario, it makes so much sense that only a few select esoteric groups know about it, because you're not supposed to know about it.
Right.
But they do.
And the whole thing about the simulation, the simulation, there's so many things that are happening. And that's why I brought it up too. I mean, I was like, people were asking me, Rob, do you think we're just going through simulation? I said, the more and more that things are happening, it seems that way.
It makes sense, man. It makes sense if you think about it.
It does make sense. It totally makes sense.
And here's why I buy it. So, if the universe is not infinite, but pretty much is infinite, and if you do research on the emergent phenomena with the guy over there, I think he's from California. I forget his name, but he did a couple documentaries explaining the 8-dimension lattice thing, and I'll send it to you. I'm having a brain fart right now. But anyway, he was saying that the past and the future co-create the present. And if that's true, then alien technologies and like future technologies will be able to affect the present right now. And their simulations are affecting the present. And while the past, has already affected us because of cause and effect. I know that sounds like mumbo jumbo and psychobabble, but if there is some type of super alien AI, it's more probable that we're in it than not in it. Right. Because we're already simulating everything now. If you're playing a video game and it's got this vast world, we don't render it all at once. We only render what we can see. And the closer we get to it, the more resolution we get. So if you look at the double split experiment, that's what we're seeing. We're seeing light as a wave and infinite possibility and almost like a spread out code. And then we look at it and force it to do something physical, it snaps into a particle. And they're doing it with molecules. So if they can do it, with molecules, then we're everything's rendered when we're looking. It's rendering and collapsing into what it is when we're looking at it. So that's the best evidence there is that we're living in a simulation.
Right.
Because you have to think about the massive power to simulate the universe and make it all render in the highest definition possible everywhere that you can't. It's impossible. Physically impossible. But if you look at it like it only renders when you're looking at it, or when you need that resource. It's crazy, dude. If this is all true, it is absolutely nuts. we're like the Matrix and Avatar together. You know what I mean?
Right. No, exactly.
But that explains, Eastern belief systems and the soul and life after death. If we are tethered to a soul, it's not too far of a stretch to say that, we're avatars of a higher being.
Right.
It makes sense to me.
No, and it totally does. So something freaky happened to me the other day is during my show, so I was doing like this meditation thing. I wanted to try just to break up the monotony. I wanted everybody just to clear their minds. And so I had an idea. So I got some audio that will open up your third eye chakra, and it was recorded at 40 hertz or 480 hertz. Sorry. So I was playing that, and before I started doing an ITC session. So finished that up. I went out started my audio going, and basically what I do is I just bring in like static, right? Or white noise. So it's just bringing in white noise. Then I start adjusting the frequencies so you can start hearing what it sounds like voices coming through. It sounded great. And then something just told me I need to adjust the frequency. So I started adjusting the EQ. I clicked on one of the EQ settings and I started dragging it up. Not even realizing what frequency the audio was just playing earlier. Because I had a few recordings. So I said, wait a minute, 480, where did I see that before? And because I just saw it, right? So I'm like, okay, but and I saw that track because it was just on my audio player. I saw it just looping, what the name of the track was. I said, but I saw 480 somewhere else. Where did I just see it? So I opened up my software and I'm looking at my EQ. And one of the EQ settings, because what you do is you click on the mouse on where on the wave you want to adjust. Just out of random, I just clicked on this one spot and started adjusting. And I said, okay, wait a minute. I thought I saw it here. So I clicked on the button. It was at 480 hertz. How in the heck am I just going to randomly select a spot on my mouse on the screen and it's going to be 480? And I was like, how in the hell did that just happen? It was just weird on how I chose that out of the blue. It was weird. Right. Right. Yep. Right. Right.
Justin, Keith says you're muted.
Crap. I muted myself when I typed. So let me backtrack. So Carl Jung, synchronicities is what I'm basically pitching to Rob here. When you get those intuitions, when you start connecting dots and seeing patterns in the universe, it's like an altered state perception. So if you're deep in like this focused state, you will start seeing or recognizing these weird patterns. And a possibility there, Rob, is you had a synchronicity or a moment to where you intuited that came to you through intuition, like some kind of unconscious or subconscious intuition.
And the weird thing is, I get these ideas in my sleep. I mean, I'm in a deep sleep. I will wake up in the middle of the night with these ideas, and then I'm just like, and then I can't go back to sleep. Hence, I was up at 3 o'clock this morning, and I couldn't go back to sleep. And then I just start thinking about things, and then I start sending somebody a text, knowing that they're not going to get the text or message until next day. But it's just very strange. But it happens a lot. And it's like, Rob, is a simulation you're in sync with the simulation and you know what's going to happen? And then I said, dude, I don't know. That's a good question.
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to find someone to convince me that we're not in a simulation. There's people out there that know what's coming. Like they do. Like, do you follow, what the hell's his name? The documentary guy from Iowa, Chad Kalick. Pretty sure that you've seen some of his stuff. Yeah. Have you listened to his podcast about the Skyfall dude kind of making the predictions about the fake UFO invasion?
No.
All right. Well, if you're ever bored, I'll send you a big playlist because it's so fascinating. Have you heard about the Sir No Face documentary?
No.
Oh my God, Rob.
What?
Oh my gosh, dude. I'll tell you what, man. I know you're probably not a bored dude, but if you ever get bored, I got some material you'll need to take a look at. But anyway,
just send it all to me.
Send it all to you. It's like, what have you done?
No, I mean, seriously. I mean, I'm constantly, watching things, watching documentaries, watching different podcasts, I've been doing a lot of, talking about UFOs. I was doing a lot of study about the Galactic Federation and, before they even started, opening up about, all this UFO stuff. This was, a year ago or even longer. Hence, that's kind of what one of my projects that I'm working on is with ITC, is not trying to figure out what we're talking to. Anyway, that's a whole nother subject.
Mm-hmm. That's a good question, though. I mean, I think there's value in asking that question on the show. I mean, what do you think?
A lot of the research that I'm doing now.
Yeah, who do you think?
What it's pointing to.
Yeah, like in general, I mean, you can't just make one, broad stroke and say it's one thing. Well, but in general,
honestly, like with what you're thinking about working on using two ghost boxes and recorders, I think a lot of things that we are hearing, to be honest, is pareidolia. What's happening is, and just hear me out. Like, let's say you hear the word, like Ian, or you might you might say, oh yeah, I just heard somebody, call out Ian. Well, how do you know? Because we're using a sweeping radio that we didn't catch, somebody saying Christian and we just heard the last syllables.
Right.
And our brains are trying to fill in the blanks.
Right. And then when you hear Ian, they'll be like, oh, is your name Ian? And then you'll hear yes, or you'll hear no, or something. And that leads you down a whole.
It leads you down that whole, yeah.
Yeah.
Just where I was talking to somebody and he was like, Rob, how many people actually go back and review audio? And I said, I don't think a lot of people do. They might just capture a recording or a snippet, but they don't capture the whole leading up to that whole conversation. They might just ask a question and that's what they get. But, like he said, oh, it said so-and-so's name. And he said, Rob, I will re-listen to it. And it sounded, what it said was, please hold. And they said, it said somebody's name. But he said, I listened to it again. I slowed it down and it said, please hold. And somebody else reviewed it and they said, yeah, it said, please hold. It didn't say, somebody, because everybody that heard it live said, oh, it said so-and-so's name. No, it actually, if you go back and re-listen to it, that's not what it said. Right. But everybody gets to, like you said, like we were talking about earlier, you're going to hear what you want to hear, or your mind's going to try to fill in the blanks. If you hear static and you'll say, okay, well, wasn't a good recording. I'm just going to make up whatever word it said because it follows the line of the context of the conversation that we're just having.
Right. So let's just say you do find or feel like you got something anomalous and you do feel like it's a communication of sorts. Then what? Then who is it?
I don't know. Is it dead grandma? Is it, is it somebody in the simulation, talking? And this is what
I don't know if you see chat or not, but Shannon Morrison's feels like we are talking to ourselves.
That's what Lloyd and I were talking about. He was like, and I said, how do we know it's not PK? Like we're projecting that, and it's us projecting that conversation, or we're projecting those answers because that's what we want to hear.
So with that being said, I would tell Lloyd, okay, if a living consciousness can do that, so can a disembodied one. And it's all PK. The mechanism is all psychokinetic, but one is doing it using a physical body, material body, and one is not. So how can you tell? How can you tell? So there is ways, but it's so rigorous and methodical that people, normal people that claim to do the research won't do it. You got to do double blind. You got to, put someone in California, other guy in Ohio, and you got to go through all this rigorous, testing to eliminate the possibility that it is your subconscious, manipulating device using psychokinetics. Like just to prove that idea would be like Nobel Prize times 5 trillion.
Well, during my live shows, I mean, I have my mic here. I used to have another mic mic'd up, but where I live, our neighbors are like far apart. I live basically on a private road. We're the only private road left in the city that I live in. Anyway, we've actually heard what sounded like a little girl a few times. We've heard an older gentleman speaking disembodied voice. We've heard a female speaking disembodied voice. Is it somebody else listening in on the show that's projecting that? And that's what we're hearing? We don't know.
Have you, this reminds me, have you seen the clip of the voice phenomena we got, like one on our very first Interface Deaf Live weekly shows with Bill Davis? I'm going to open up YouTube, and I'm going to start a live stream on Discord so you can tune in and listen to it while we're live. And I want you to hear this, dude. It's probably one of the most mind-boggling things I've heard. And what's awesome is you hear it, but you see us not doing it. We're on camera. So let me look it up real quick. Missy, can you read some comments real quick? So I have
and that's the thing is like, you know, you'll see my voice, and people have said, you know, hey Rob, I was sitting here quiet. Right. And people have heard me talking.
I got it.
And somebody said, hey Rob, you know, your voice just came through. And I was like, I'm not talking.
Okay. So if you see the live feed down there, just click on it. Tell me when you're ready. It's a short clip, so it won't take long, but I'll get your feedback on this. Tell me when you're ready.
I just clicked on watch stream. Yeah.
Okay. Here we go. If you read this, it kind of gives you a brief description real quick. And we'll go from there.
Spirit Stalker Afterlife said he tried to donate in the stream tab, but he doesn't think it went through.
PayPal?
I think so.
Did you donate through PayPal? Because I can verify that.
Yeah, it's outside my house.
Okay, cool.
You walk across the street and down the alley, and the train tracks are right there.
Well, at least you're on the right side of the tracks.
Who did you say donated?
Okay, cool.
You walk across the street and down the alley, and the train tracks are right there.
Okay, cool.
You walk across the street and down the alley, and the train tracks are right there.
Dude, what the fuck? What is that, man? You're hearing it, right?
Yeah.
What is that?
Don't know.
It sounds like Grandma crystal clear, right?
It does sound like Grandma. Yep.
And it's whispery. So all the stuff that I can't explain, you know, I go through all the rigorous face cams, multiple mics, yada, yada, yada. And they all sound pretty much like that. They're like a whisper. And, you bring it up in spectral analysis and you do examples of whispering and it looks exactly the same. Sometimes you got to get, other people with similar voices to get it to look close. But, you do this on your shirt on a mic and you look at that and it's like, no, that looks nothing spectrally like what we just heard. And you go through all the rigorous analysis and you're at the end of your day, you're like, is there a little child saying grandma on my live stream? And it's in one of our mics and you can tell it's, a decent mic where I think Missy's using a Samsung Q4 or something like that. Right. It's a vocal mic. Right. And me and Bill Davis are using Rhodes. I mean, right. It was one of our microphones. They got right up in it and whispered that. Yeah. I'm like, yeah, just like you're saying, they can come from anywhere and do whatever. I don't understand it. I don't get it.
So I have an EVP that, like we were talking about, like a glitch in the Matrix. We heard a little baby crying. We heard a little boy run. You literally hear footsteps, run up to the mic, giggle, and then you hear him run away. And yeah, those are great EVPs, but there was something weird. And I'm like, when I heard the playback, I was like, damn it. I wish I would have known that this damn clock was somewhere in the room. I would have taken it out and put it somewhere. And I was talking, and this happened in that house where I saw the lady when I was 12.
Okay.
And I played it for Richard, and the guy I was talking about, I played it for Richard. I said, listen to this. And he said, Rob, where was this taken? And I said, it was in it's called a sala, but it's a living room in Spanish or a parlor. And he said, Rob, those are pretty interesting, but come with me. And I was like, okay. So we walk in there and he said, now listen. Dude, it was dead silent. And I'm like, where in the hell's the clock? And he said, Rob, there's no clock in here. That's why I said this. I was like baffled. Where did you get this? And I said, it was right here in this room. He said, listen, there's no clock. He said, the only clock is here that's sitting on the mantle. And he said, that clock doesn't work. He said, go try to wind it. And you try to wind it, and the spring mechanism is locked. So the clock won't wind. He's like, shake it. It won't, you can't get it to you can't get it to work. And it was super loud. And I have the recording still.
So you heard the ticking of a clock?
Oh, it's loud. It's like an old clock ticking.
I wonder if it's
Super
this,
loud.
even if the clock that's not functioning that you're talking about, I wonder if it sounds like that clock, or if it's just has nothing to do with any clock in your vicinity.
Oh no, it sounds like an old clock. If you hear it, you'll be like, holy crap, that's an old clock.
Yeah, but what
And if
connection
it's-
does that sound of a clock have to what's going on?
I
Where
don't
you're
know.
at?
I mean, maybe it was, I mean, because that house, was built in the 1800s, early 1800s. So, and it fit that, I mean, I don't know. I'm just still baffled. If you hear it, you'll be like, it's not a modern clock.
Dude, the paranormal's weird. Like
It is.
the really mind-boggling stuff don't make sense. Like, why would a child whisper grandma on a live stream? Why would a clock that's not there click and and whatever?
That's what I'm saying. Can you adjust the screens again? All the screens down at the bottom are small.
Oh, on Discord?
Yeah.
Oh, I can do undo the live stream, and if you click on it, or there's a grid
There we
in the
go.
top
We
right.
got it.
Yeah, okay. Sorry about that. Yeah. I don't know if we're able to make sense of any of it, but I think all we can do at this point, Rob, is get to the point where we're pretty sure what's not supposed to be happening at this point in time. Like, that voice is not
Right.
supposed to be there. This is not supposed to happen. This is anomalous. We're like anomaly hunters. We can't prove life after death, spirits, angels, demons, ghosts. We really can't, because there's no proof of it existing at all. So you can't find proof of something that is not supposed to be real. But
Yeah.
you really gotta, be a skeptic when someone tells you, like a psychic or a child speaks someone's name that's been dead or is dead, or just like even the phone calls people get of their family members being alive, but they found out that they were dead and they couldn't make them. Like, that stuff screams life after death to me.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to leave that on the table when you're doing this.
Well, you do, and it's so funny because, like I said, a lot of the same things that you say, like we can't prove this. So how can we say, like, there's such things as ghosts? Yeah, we experience a lot of stuff that we can't explain, but we still don't have the proof. Yes, we might have a lot of things captured, and we might have all of this footage, but what can we prove? We still can't prove anything.
Yeah, just that we can get really close to proving that this is something that's not explainable. Missy, do you want to read Shannon's essay there? Her comments are always great. Oh no, it's Derek, not Missy. I forgot that she's not there anymore.
Yeah, she'll be back. She went to get a drink. She said, "We are all connected and can communicate in many ways. We just don't have the ability to document or describe yet. We don't have the universal language to describe what people are experiencing. We have less of a problem recognizing that animals can communicate in ways that are not vocal. We know that animals act en masse and call it instinct, but they are communicating in ways that we do not perceive."
Yeah, body language, it comes down to pheromones and all the senses kind of come into play there, but a lot of it is visual cues and body language. Have you ever seen the story about Robin Williams and Coco the gorilla, where they were communicating through sign language, and it wasn't too long after that he passed away, and it was really cool because they claim it was the smartest, primate that they had, to study. And I mean, she was speaking English through sign. Like, it was 100% clear that this animal, in quotation marks, could understand what we say and respond back, coherently. She had to sign because, of course, her vocal cords can't produce the language, but she understands the language. That's crazy. And it kind of goes along with what Shannon's saying, when we believe we're talking to spirits, they don't have ears. How do they hear us? Well, I tell them it's probably most likely telepath. They know what we're saying through, telepathy. When we say things, we think them, and when we think them, that's still, transduces to acoustic energy, but we still think them consciously. So there's a PK element there already. So if we are disembodied psychokinetic energy and some kind of metaphysical energy force that we haven't detected yet, it's still a vibration in that field that they're seeing. They can't see us. They have no eyes. So how do they, know what they look like, what we look like or what they look like? Well, it's a vibration that we're decoding. It's like she's saying, right. If the gorilla understands us but can't communicate back in the same language, they use a medium, which was sign language in this analogy. But when, we're using our third eye or we're doing something, psychically, we're basically decoding vibrations in that energy field. And we have to be doing this naturally. It's not something that, aliens came down and taught us, 100,000 years ago, whatever. We can naturally do it. All right. And we're doing it every day. A mother, if you watch a mother, raise a child, there's so much communication going on that's not verbal. And animals, when you watch them, they're not making noises sometimes, and they're communicating all this information, and it would be mind-boggling to be able to have the time and resources to do all the research. And if you blindfold somebody, what can they pick up? How much can they communicate? They have done experiments, but it's not anything close to what they need to do when it comes to communicating. I know they've done Stargate. Governments have done tests on remote viewing and all kinds of stuff. But they need to release what they know so we can probably be a better, have a better life and have a better connection with everybody in the world than we do now. Because there's a lot of people killing each other and fighting with each other because we're so ignorant about the connection and about how detrimental it is to our society that we don't understand beyond our normal senses, beyond our normal, knowledge of who we are and how we're connected. I mean, oh my God, this would change so many things. Would kind of tear down most common beliefs about God, about the afterlife, about how we're connected, and more about how similar we are. Because if you look at quantum entanglement, you know what I'm talking about, right? About that. So if we're all connected, we all began the same way. So everything that we do affects everybody else. It's just they're not aware of how it's affecting everybody.
Exactly.
It's such a wide, deep rabbit hole.
It's so deep. It's crazy. And, it was like, I'm doing this new ITC experiment and trying to see if it is. And we're asking, is it a part of a simulation? Is it part of, is there underground tunnels, or beings in underground tunnels at Area 51? And this was weird. It said Martians. And I said, so you said Martians? And they said, yep. And because now I'm questioning everything. So any legitimate answer I get, I question it. Just because it's like an experiment. Like I said, I'm taking it more like an experiment, not like it's okay. This is what we're doing, and this is fact. No, we're questioning every single thing that we're getting back. And it's weird. Since we started talking about the simulation, instead of getting like chatter coming through, because I am just not using radio frequencies, I'm just using static and cleaning up the static. So we're hearing a male and a female communicating in the background, and it's always the same cadence. It's always the same male and female. And it's weird. It's like we hear them having a conversation with each other, and then they will say things like, oh, they're here, they're watching, or they're here, the show just started. And then it's like, okay, so did you just say that the show just started? And then they'll say yes. And then we're like, okay, so they're having a conversation, but then when we ask a question, the male will stop. They'll start communicating with each other. They'll answer, and then they go back communicating. And it's like, so are you observing us? What's so we just start asking a bunch of questions. So it's gotten pretty interesting. What we're communicating with, I have no idea. Is it a simulation? Possibly. It seems that way. And that's basically where I'm at right now with it. And we do it all live on Saturdays or Wednesdays and Saturdays. So we try to do it at different times.
I can't wait to watch back your podcast after this show, dude. You're going to be like
Saturday. I think Saturday was like the most interesting because we've changed up. It's like, okay, Rob, people, because you, and I hate to say this, I hate to sound like, but you brought it up too. How I guess, how many times can you ask, grandma, is she here with us? And I hate to say it and hate to sound like that, but, we had to try to change things up a little bit. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful or anything. This is just an experiment that we're trying and changing things up. And maybe it's just to try to open up, get people to think outside of the box. You know what? Well, this is still paranormal related. We're trying to find answers. And we're trying different experiments just to see where it goes. See where it leads us down that rabbit hole.
Do you poo-poo on the Estes method?
Yes.
Why?
I think because a lot of people already have a preconceived notion of what's going to happen, what they're trying to communicate with. And it's like they're tainted, they're at a Honda location, and that's what they're looking for. And I think we all do that. It's a location has influence over us and what we're trying to accomplish, I think.
Absolutely, it does. And, I say all the time, the hardest thing to do when you're a paranormal investigator is to eliminate yourself from the equation. Your own beliefs, your own thoughts are so damaging to everything you're trying to do. And
that's why I go into every location blind.
He gouges out his eyes.
I will not. I mean, I haven't. I say I will not, but I have in the past. But now I will not go to somewhere that's been investigated, 100 times by people. Everywhere that I go, it's never been investigated, or And it's funny how, there's shows that call up and say, hey, I heard you did this. How did you find that out?
Yeah. What's up, Matthew Benton? Shannon says, I feel like we are born with all the knowledge and connections in the world. In order to function as humans, we must learn to filter in infancy to adapt to our current reality. That's deep.
It is deep, but it's right on.
Yeah, the deep thinkers are always the most conflicted, but focused in on, deep questions and deep answers to those questions, because I feel like those people stand out in society because most people feel out of touch. They feel like they're missing out on something, or they're missing something on the broader spectrum, and they kind of rely, they kind of lean their ear towards these deep thinkers and the people that ask those complex questions, because our brains are wired to need or chase what they believe is some kind of internal truth to existential questions. And I feel like it's part of their divine path to at least know that they're trying to answer those questions the best of their ability. Like, why are we here?
Yeah.
Is there an afterlife? Is there a God? Yada, yada, yada. So when you hear people out there that are, really, really good at articulating thought and asking questions that are hard, maybe even impossible to know, that is time well spent to me, because who the hell wants to sit at the factory line of life and just churn out the same damn thing over and over? I mean, no one likes that, but everyone's stuck in it. Everyone's stuck in the grind. Everybody feels like they're, in the Matrix, and the capsule energy's being sucked out of them. Everyone's feeling that way.
Right.
They want to take the red pill.
No, absolutely. I mean, there's still, locations that speak to me, and, and I just, sometimes I'm like, I got to go back there, but I just don't. I just feel like, you know what? I've done my piece. We've had our conversation, and I just need to let you be.
Mm-hmm. So what's your take on why locations seem like, seemingly haunted? Like there feels like there's this energy associated with, or this imprint that we resonate with, that, draws us in, that allows these experiences to occur. What's your theory? Do you think it's mostly afterlife phenomena, or do you think it goes in more complex phenomena?
I think it's more complex. And it's weird. And this goes back to my heritage, or our heritage. A lot of the places that were built, and I think I have, and I just found something else out this past week that I didn't even know that existed. Anyway, so we're walking, getting back to that, your question. I think a lot of the properties that I am drawn to, were built on Native American land, and for some reason, the energy just resonates with me, and it draws me to those locations. It's weird.
Well,
and
not
those
to
are
me.
my connections. Well, but that's just, it's something very personal, and you still get that overwhelming, anxious feeling when you walk by that location. It's almost like, hey, I need you to come back, or they're drawing you back. But it's like, look, you need to rest in peace. You need to just, I don't know. It's just, it's almost like somebody calling to you, and you're like, look, you know what? You just need to rest and just rest and be at peace. I don't want to, conjure anything up or stir anything up.
Yep. So I have a whole lot of ideas about why, people experience hauntings, why people feel connected or drawn to places, and people are picking up on something that is familiar to them, but yet elusive and mysterious. So, my research into quantum field theory and quantum physics in general leads me to believe that a lot of psychic phenomena is tied to our brain's ability to not only detect and interpret quantum data and quantum information, because according to the theories, everything that's happened in that location is embedded into the location.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
So it's almost like a multimedia. You extract that information, it goes into your brain, and then you start interacting with it like it's some type of tangible multimedia. Like you see the people, you see the events happening, you feel the emotions permeating from them, and you start interacting with them like you're just jumped into a movie or jumped into this scenario. And all it really is data in the matrix, but to you it's an experience that you're remembering like you were there, and your empathic tendencies are picking up on, oh, there's something wrong here. You know, that's why it stands out, because it reminds you of all the times that you've had to cope, or how you resonate with traumatic experiences, or things that you feel like you need to do something about. And if you if you feel inclined to, that's what draws you there. I mean, I'm sure you agree.
No, absolutely. And I was just had a conversation with this to somebody, and I said, look, you know, it's like, for some weird reason, you know, a tragic event happens at that location, you know, and it's happened, and it's embedded. It's a psychic scar in that location. And it's an imprint, and certain people will pick up on the imprint. And like what you said, it's like it just draws you to that, and you'll start picking up visions on different things that nobody else knows about, that happened at that location. I did an investigation, and I talk about this a lot too, where there was a family. They had 3 girls, and it was a mom and dad. So it was a 3-bedroom house, 2-story house. One night there was a fire. 2 of the girls were still upstairs. The dad ran upstairs, grabbed one of the daughters, ran down, ran back up, grabbed the other daughter, took her down. The house burned down. Nobody was hurt. Over the years, they rebuilt the house to look exactly how it was. They sold the house. They moved away. New owners moved into the house. They were smelling smoke. They hear screams. They see a man running down the stairs. Sometimes they see him running up the stairs, carrying a girl, and they were freaked out. So we did research. We found out. We got in touch with the family. They said, look, nobody died here. But they see that event happening over and over, and they wanted to move because they were like, my house is haunted. It wasn't haunted. They're just revisit that same event is playing over and over. They smell the smoke. They hear the screams. They, you know.
Was there a fire in the history?
Yeah. Well, the house did burn down.
Okay, so that's nuts. That, you know, what's interesting about this whole thing is you can pick a group of 5 families, and 1 out of the 5 will experience that.
Right. Exactly. Because the family, you know. Yeah, because even the family, once they moved back in, they said that they would smell the smoke, and they would hear screams upstairs, but they kind of knew what was going on. They just thought it might have been a psychological thing, and that's kind of why they moved too. It was just so tragic, and they were just dealing with that. And it's just, like I said, it's a psychic scar that's just embedded in that location, and it's not haunted.
It's a great question to ask. You know, all the people out there that feels like, you know, they're haunted or their house is haunted, and it turns out that they're just, you know, watching a movie, a psychokinetic movie.
Sometimes that's what it is. Mm-hmm. And that's what people are picking up on.
I think most of the time that's what it is. And, you know, and I tell people all the time, in my experience, a real earthbound entity that was once living is not normal. Like, that's not what's supposed to happen. That's a very unnatural, unnormal, rare thing. I believe it does happen, but it's way rare, more rare than people realize. And most of this stuff is just, you know, psychokinetic. You know, people, you know, they not aware of their abilities, not aware what the possibilities out there. And even when it comes to, you know, the voices that we capture and the people or things we think we're communicating with, same thing with that. I mean, we just, you know, if you really want to disturb the spirits, well, it's going to be harder than you think, because I'm telling you, nobody really says, okay, there's a light of like loving and acceptance and internal joy. I'm not going into that right now. Why not? If I seen that stuff, I would nosedive into it. I'll tell you that right now. But if, in all honesty, if you're faced with the reality of you have to leave your loved ones behind, indefinitely or in some way, strange way, detach yourself from them, I can see why people would turn away. They wouldn't want to let go.
Right.
But
what we experience and think, I don't know. I mean, like I said, I've been fortunate enough to see lots of apparitions, and did they ever interact with us? No, they acted like we're not even there. I mean, one ran right through us. I mean, it was a shadow figure. Another investigator and I were just getting out of an elevator, and we both literally kind of like duck, like somebody threw something at us, and we kind of like both did that at the same time. And this thing ran right between us. And that was the time when I was getting some base readings, and I had an EMF detector and I had a static detector in my hand. And that's because we were walking around. And when it did that, that static detector was going off like crazy. And, it was just weird. And it wasn't even that. I think that what really like stood out to us is like, dude, did you notice we both like ducked like at the same time to like protect ourselves?
Yeah, it's not like one. It's like one seeing the other do something, and they're kind of like being influenced by it. It was simultaneous.
Yeah, we both did it simultaneously coming out of an elevator, and it was like, and we didn't even care about the shadow figure. We were like, dude, that was so trippy. That was like crazy. And we talk about that more than what happened to us, what caused that.
Right. Because it's one thing to experience something like that, but it's another thing to have it validated in that way.
Yeah.
Because we all know that if we experience something we believe is true, like at least 1% of us think that, we're crazy or we imagined it.
Yeah.
It's something that I hope, if I ever hang it up, I just hope that I could discover something that could lead us into direction of, something that we can study and we can replicate, and we can stop calling it paranormal. Because I feel like the way science is leading us into the simulation crap and the quantum stuff, I feel like we're at a crossroads, and we just have to, I posted a video the other day about, and in the video it said that, there was a guy in the 1950s that came up with the continental drift theory, because he was seeing fossils in Africa that was the same in South America. And he was laughed at, he was shunned, even though he had very overwhelming evidence that it was true. Well, 50, 60 years later, they accepted his theory well after he was dead. And It's because they're resistant to their own beliefs, their own bias. Even Einstein was guilty of this. He had a lot of problems with quantum theory. And I feel like once we get rid of all that stuff, all that bias and all that, resistance to what we're actually seeing evidence of, there's going to be a paradigm shift. Hopefully we don't live in the New World Order where the government tricked us into believing there's a UFO invasion. we're all like worshiping the same God and speaking the same language, spending the same money. Dude, that's kind of terrifying to me. I like it that the world's all different.
It is. I'm glad that things are actually coming out and being spoken about.
So, okay, we'll wrap this up with the last congressional hearing about the whistleblowers and the Tic Tac video and all that. You watched it, obviously, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what say you? Are we in Project Bluebeam, or is the government actually letting us know stuff?
I think that I kind of have a mixed bag of that.
Yeah.
I think it's a little of both. And it's so weird because, like, with my ITC research the project that I called it Project Blu-ray. And I came up with this 2.5 years ago. And that's how long I've been working on it. And I just kind of came out in public with it, but other people that have watched my show heard me talk about it, heard me experiment with it, but now it's like I'm more open about it. And we've been talking about, star children and things like that. So kind of.
So elaborate a little bit. Can you elaborate? Can you give us a little more details? Or it kind of sounds you're not giving us. They're spilling the beans.
Well, I mean, it was like a friend of mine that passed. She was talking about kind of like she said, she was telling me a lot of things that I never shared with her. And she was telling me, that I've had experiences when I was younger. And she was saying, that I could possibly be a star child. And I said, yeah, okay, whatever.
Explain a star child for those that don't know.
What I know about it is that you're from another world, or that's your soul is from another world, and you're just in a human's body, but your soul is actually from another planet or dimension.
Okay, so what is that? Where does that lead into your theory?
That I don't know. Is that part of? Is that just code name for the simulation? I don't know.
So if we're in the simulation, there's going to be multiple simulations because there's no such thing as just one simulation. So there's going to be
right.
There's a loop, and it may be a feedback loop. And when I talked about the past and the future all co-creating the present, that is a very interesting feedback loop. So what you put in past, present, future is constantly co-creating, and it could be infinite in other possible realities or simulations, whatever you want to say. So these simulations have an end, like they have a goal, and what that goal is going to give you the answer to what's going on now. It's like the existential why. What's the meaning of all this? And I feel like once we realize what that end game question or answer is, that's going to make everything make sense. But is it our place to know what that is? Are we just pawns in the simulation for the the data to all be collected in the universal consciousness at the end? Because I feel like if you're simulating something, that must mean you don't know. Those out there at the top of this whole hierarchy don't know, and they're trying to find out too. And that would explain the constant cyclical simulation happening. No one may know what they're trying to find out.
Now, do you think once we pass that we're put back into the simulation?
I feel like that. Okay, when you dream, it's almost like all output and no input. It's like you're not getting in all the sensory data, but you're outputting it all from everything that you've stored in there. So we're just like these meat hard drives. So when we sleep, it's kind of like we interface with the universal consciousness, and we are free to dabble in the simulation way more freely. So we're constantly interfacing with it, but we're outputting it. So it's like when you wake up, the memory doesn't work right, because unless you wake up like right in the middle of REM, it's hard to remember what the hell you were dreaming about. And I feel like that when you're dead or you're during altered states of perception, that's what it's got to be like. You got to be, it's highly morphic. You can shift realities. You can be different people and different things, different times and places. You can take information from like a house you used to live in and embed it into a different scenario. The possibilities are almost endless there, but there's a rhyme and reason to it. And what that,
let me just, no, go ahead.
no, I'm pretty much done. Go ahead.
So check this out. So right around that same time that I saw Hat Man, there was a period of time when I would go to sleep, and I remember this vividly. When I would go to sleep, I would wake up, and this would happen every night. And this is when I remember I started going to therapy. I'd wake up, and I was in a dark room. It was dark, but it was lit, but there was no lights. And there was a male and a female that you can see that they're male and female, but they were just like lights. I know this sounds weird, but then there was like two pillars. They were probably waist high. And they would tell me to put my hands on them and don't be afraid. And it was going to take me somewhere, but then I would be able to come back and I would have that same dream or that same vision every single night for, I couldn't even tell you for how long that went on for. And every night I was like, no, I'm not, my mom would say, you need to go to bed. I was like, nope, I'm not going to go to sleep because I don't want to see that man and a lady. And she was like, what are you talking about? Then I would explain to her what I was seeing. She was just, that's what got her worried. And that's why I started, going to therapy. But yeah, it was weird. And now with this whole thing that I'm doing, was that part of a simulation? And I was seeing that the operators of the simulation, I don't know, but it's weird how it coincides with a male and a female, and we're hearing them talking amongst themselves, and then the male will answer me or answer whenever somebody asks a question during our live show. So it's just weird on, like we were talking about, synchronicities again. So it's just, I just had to share that. I know people now will be like, all right, this dude's crazy.
Probably not. If they want to make that kind of judgment on people we talked to on the show, it would have been a long time ago, and they're not watching. So it's most of the people that are open to this or have had similar experiences. And a lot of what you're saying is strikingly similar to the stories my mom used to say.
Really?
And, yeah, dude, you're not alone in this at all.
Okay.
And some people may say star child. Some people, I just feel like the lineage some people have, they have a strong affinity for this stuff. And it seems very weird because it does not align with our reality. It's very paranormal. Okay. So it's weird. Like, dude, if I could sit there and talk to you hours about the crazy shit my mom used to tell me growing up. Anyway, I'm sure you can imagine. But, a lot of people feel like it could be aliens or interdimensional beings or spirits or whatever it is. It's something that's not physical. It's coming to us in our dreams. It may be coming to us when we're awake. But my mom used to say when she was awake, she would go unconscious. It would knock her out, and then she would travel with them. And some people, this is happening to them, but they're not conscious of it. But some people are conscious and they do remember. And that's what's interesting, is some people just remember or are conscious of it happening to them. And when you're doing the ITC, you're definitely could be communicating with these beings. I feel like through ITC, the potential of things communicating with you, it's probable. Well, but we need to figure out if it's pareidolia, like you said, but still, I believe it's probable.
And that's how Frank Sumption came, came up with the ghost box. He wasn't trying to contact spirit.
Aliens.
For people that do know, and he said he was an alien. He said his name was a Purple Princess. People that know him, and if you look at a Frank's box, that's what he had. He had different symbols, and he had spaceships on it.
Mm-hmm. A lot of people believe that spirit boxes is more divination than anything.
Right. Yeah, and that's exactly what it is. You're going to get out of what you put into it. Now, is it, anyway, that's a whole nother subject.
Well, it's related, and I know we're winding down. Dude, this has been everything that I expected it to be. I feel like this is probably the beginning of a relationship that will be ongoing, and we'll be on the internet talking about this stuff until the cows come home. But I just want you to know, mate, I love that you've been following the stuff that I do, and that we're, thinking on the same wavelength. And I think it's cool that we get to share ideas and, try to find out together, if you're willing, about a lot of these questions. I mean, is there anything you want to promote or anything that you want to say at the end of this 2-hour rabbit hole we've been down?
No, I mean, you can just catch me on YouTube or on Facebook. Just look up Rob Hernandez or go to the Pair Awakening. Just look for the Pair Awakening on YouTube. And you can watch my lives on Wednesday night in about an hour. And then sometimes on Saturday night. I usually do it at 11:45 Pacific time. So I know that's pretty late. The premise was to do a ghost box sessions at 3 a.m. at the witching hour, just to see how that would go. So
awesome. Definitely check out Rob's stuff. If you're into ITC and transcommunication, please check him out. If you've been watching this whole time, he's serious about it. It's not Huff Paranormal, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, thanks to Huff is what got me into it. But anyway,
I definitely checked him out, but I feel like through the course of his research, it went sideways. But we won't get into that.
Yeah, and if you go to my YouTube channel, you'll see that yeah. Anyway, but no, I mean, just like what Justin and I were talking about, it's a lot that we're bashing the paranormal. Trust me. I mean, I almost just bowed out because, it is, I just wish that people would, I think, just reach out to us and kind of collaborate with us. And, we're all in this together. We're not trying to bash anybody, but, and if you want to get serious, just, come to one of us and we'll talk and give you some theories.
Yeah, we just challenge, your work, scrutinize it, allow it to be scrutinized by others, and if it can hold up, then you're doing something worthwhile. Rob, it's been awesome. Exactly. If you want to hang out on the call while I wrap this up, you may. If you got to go,
sure,
you got to go.
No, I'm good.
All right. Everyone, thank you very much for joining us tonight. It was an awesome show. We'll definitely have Rob back again if he wants to. Please go check out his stuff. If you want, if you can't find him, just private message me or send me an email. I can send you links. It's super easy to get in front of his work. But let's do the social media stuff: Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter. That's where you can find all the stuff we got going on. We just have been featured in the American Paranormal magazine. Let me bring that up real quick. This is the cover of it. If you just go on Facebook or Instagram, you can find the links to buy the actual print if you want to, but that just happened, so go check that out. Patrons, I've been linking it the whole time. Let's shout out the patrons. Everybody you see on the screen: Clay Borman, Deadlight LLC, Heath Edwards, Tony Felosi, Gina Rutledge, and Anthony Grothis. Thank you very much. Without their support, we definitely could not be doing this for this long with this amount of production value. So big thank you to them. Check us out on Patreon, and that's where I'm going to leave it. Thank you very much. Next week, we don't have a guest lined up, but if you're watching and you got your nose stuck in the paranormal like we do, give me a holler. But we'll be live sometime next week. And until next time, you guys have a good night. We'll see you.